Book 1, Law of Salimi Chapter 7. Okay, before we begin, there's a slight warning to a certain degree. This chapter is going to talk a little bit about some issues that might be considered to be rather sensitive or maybe more mature mind. Anyway, so let's talk about Chapter 7, which asks a question of, are you a virgin? Before I continue exploring this chapter, based on the title, Are You a Virgin? It might be apparent that it is fair for me to put a disclaimer statement on this matter. If you are not at the age of maturity, I would prefer if you, the reader, or the audience, who is not yet be considered as mature, to consult with your parents or guardians to understand about this subject. Frankly speaking, I will not go into very detail or any explicit graphic visualization regarding the subject matter of this chapter because it will not seem to be a proper writing. Clearly, if you have read this story up till chapter 7, from the very beginning of this story, this is a true story about my life. This is not an erotica novel or any form of pornography. However, the concept of virginity might be different based on society from all over the world. Honestly, I am not a professor or an expert in any relevant field, but I do have to explore this subject matter because it is part of my life experience. The subject matter might be considered as intended for mature readers. Nevertheless, I assume that the reader would be knowledgeable enough to understand that this is my true story and take it with a grain of salt, which is to say, not to take everything that I wrote in this book as or story as a fact of life. It is my experience in life, and the perception from different society might differ as compared to my society, which is Malaysian society. I do not intend to insult or cause any form of harm to anyone or any groups which might be related to my life story. I do not wish anything upon anyone, but rather I feel that my life story does involve real life human being, party, groups or institutions. Thus, please do not take my experience written here as fact of absolute truth. My perspective in life and what occurred in my life experience is based on my personal understanding about life. It is what I see and how I see it. It is not the absolute truth and does not represent an absolute fact about anything or anyone involved or mentioned in my life story. It is my life story as it does happen in my life, as my true life experience. I reckon that starting from this point onward, I might mention certain things or specific events that occurred in my life which could be considered as intentionally causing harm to others. I do not intend for that. If it seems to be so, I would wish to exert my sincerest apology to anyone and everyone mentioned in this story. Everything that happened to me is described from my perspectives of things about life and events in my life. I do not blame anyone for anything, especially all the negative things that I had experienced in my life. All I wish to share here is simply pure experience and my analysis of the occurrence from my personal perspectives in life. Anything that I mentioned is based on the teachings of Islam and Sharia, which is as much as my limited understanding, and thus do not intend to inflict harm or insult or deface anyone or anything. I hope this disclaimer is clear that I do not wish harm upon anyone. Any reader of this story should read it as I see things based on my perceptions and perspectives in life. Are we clear about all this? If we are, let us proceed with the story of chapter 7. If you are not clear, please reread the above sections of the disclaimer until you reach an ample understanding on the fact that I do not wish to cause harm to anyone or anything. I tried my very best effort to not mention any names, especially if any individual or institution had caused harm towards me. Anyway, let's continue with the story. After the PMR examinations at the age of 15 years old in secondary school, our family moved to Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. This is part of the story of my story where I began to realize that I should become alive and live my life in accordance to the teachings of Islam. To live as a true Muslim and practice Islam as a way of life. Before moving to Sabah, I was consumed with anger, confusion, surviving bullies, and many of the trivial events that occurred in my life. For the knowledge of the reader, I did not disclose every single details of my life story because many of them involve very specific individuals or decision making which is not suitable to be mentioned in my life story, at least not yet up to this point of the story in my life. Let's just say that a lot had happened in my life, which puts me into this very path of pursuing knowledge and passionate about learning. In other words, I was not a good student or human being before I realized that I should become one. I realized that I should become a good Muslim that practices Islam as a way of life. Before that, I was not. For everything that is bad and any harm that I had caused upon everything and everyone in my life, I would like to offer my humblest and sincerest apologies to them with the hope that they might have forgiven me. I do not wish to mention anything specific because it would not serve any beneficial knowledge to anyone, especially the reader of this story. I am truly sorry. I could have not bring myself even today to actually come face to face and meet every single person that I had wronged in my lifetime to ask for their apologies. Honestly, in Islam, I should, but I just cannot bring myself to do so. Instead, I hope that by writing this life story, I truly hope that anyone that I had caused harm or I had wronged in my life to accept my sincerest apologies. I truly regret that everything that I had did at that time was because I lacked the knowledge and faith about the teachings of Islam. I was truly stubborn and stupid. I am sorry again. I hope you can forgive me for my mistakes in life because only you, the person that I had wronged, can truly forgive me from my sins that I had committed. When our family began moving to Kota Kinabalu, Sabah around 1996 or 1997, my heart had shifted to move from being bad to being good, to being a good human being, becoming a good Muslim. When I came to Sabah the first time, I stepped my foot into the building of CPS, which is known as Center Point Sabah, which was a shopping complex. I had experienced another exciting event in my adventurous life. At about 16 years old, I started to realize that I was not a weak person. If I did not give up in everything that I do in life, regardless of the situation that I had been put into, hence on that day, I was basically walking alone in the building of CPS when I suddenly realized that I was followed by someone whose intention might not be representing of a good person. The person seemed to be calling me to get my attention. I started to realize that something bad was about to happen because no one else was nearby. I knew that the person calling me has bad intention due to the fact that I just came to Sabah and no one knew who I am. My heart began pumping heavily and I started to walk faster towards the crowds of other shoppers and to safety. Instead, I think the person started running because I felt a hand on my shoulder. Next, the person began accusing me of something that I clearly did not do or know about. Any clarification given by me was clearly ignored, as the person never truly wished to speak to me but rather tried to rob me. It became an absolute certainty when he started to pin my neck with his hand and began asking for money. Of all honesty, I did not have any money because I did not carry any money with me at that age. I told him that I do not have any money with me, whilst my head began to be filled with panic and slight fear. However, I do felt a sense of calmness as he began to strip my watch that I was wearing. He was having difficulty to unfasten my watch. At the same time, I felt the pressure of his other hand pinning my neck started to lessen. All of the sudden, my body began instinctively pushing the person with everything that I had and causing him to fall onto the floor. At that very moment, I ran towards the safety of the crowded section of the shopping complex where the person was unable to give me a chase or try to harm me again. This event solidified my understanding on the concept of never giving up and take charge of everything in my life. I feel exhilarated and alive amidst of the danger. Obviously, I do not recommend anyone reading this story to be a superhero or anything of that sort, but rather when at some point in your life it might be possible for you to choose and take action. Considering in my situation in Center Point Sabah, the risk might not be as high as having a knife on my throat or pistol aimed at me. I choose to take action and the result safeguarded myself from being harmed or robbed. The event told me that I had a choice in my life. Everyone had a choice that they can decide to act upon or not. I would recommend to everyone to never give up in life. I began to understand that any choice that I made during my upbringing might bring me closer to the path of knowledge and becoming a good Muslim. I started to understand that I should learn to forgive the mistakes of others that wronged me in my life. I realized that I really should be focused in seeking knowledge instead of wasting my time with revenge, chasing popularity or other insignificant attributes in my life. I started to learn what it truly means to practice Islam as a way of life. As soon as the school session, I started As soon as the school session begins, I started my secondary school at Maktab Sabah or Sabah College when it is translated to English. I feel that I started learning at Maktab Sabah with a clean slate because no one was bullying me and I can begin a new start. When I entered my classroom, it was the least performing class at academic in Form 4. I honestly do not mind at all because I love the environment at Maktab Sabah. Students were excited to know that I was joining them from Kuala Lumpur. Everyone was treating me with tact and respect as a fellow classmates. When deciding on my sitting arrangement, I was called over to one desk that was closer to the back of the room, which several students were gathering. To help the reader imagine or visualize the classroom, we were placed in a science lab as our official classroom due to the lack of proper classroom. I love the environment because it was new and exciting for me. When I sit on a chair offered by a student, they began asking about my experience in Sabah. Honestly, despite of being robbed at CPS, I really love Sabah and Sabahan, which is the Sabah people. Later, more students started gathering around me and began questioning me furiously. I tried my best to answer every single question until someone started to ask me, "Are you a virgin?" In my defense, I do know what a virgin means, but I thought that it might be a trick question or simply in a specific context that I might misunderstood from. So I answered, I do not know what the meaning of the word virgin was. Several of the students began laughing and giggling after hearing my answers. To them, I appeared to be someone who lacks of something in life. So they started to explain that the word meant whether I had any experience of having sex with anyone. I pretended to look confused. They asked me whether I had ever kissed a girl before, which I replied with no, which is the truth if the reader is curious. There are many other sexual questions that they asked me, which I think would suffice for me to state here that when I said to them that I never touched another girl's hand, most students laughed at me. It seemed that I was weird for being a virgin and never kissed a girl at 16 years of age. I guess if you, the reader, are from Western countries, it would seem odd or even a nerd to be like me. But in Malaysian society, at least from Islamic perspective, being a virgin before marriage is a good thing. I was honestly surprised when they explained that most of them are not virgin. In fact, I was shocked about it. I guess this could be a new experience to me and a new culture that I need to learn, analyze and examine about my new classmates. To them, I was perceived as odd and weird for being a virgin when, from my perspective, they were different for not being one. Nevertheless, all I could say is Sabah and Sabahan are truly interesting for me. I really love learning about the new environment, and the very best part of it was the fact that no one was bullying me. They respected me as a fellow student and I returned the favor. I guess I assumed that many students that I knew were actively involved with sexual activities since they claimed that most of them were not a virgin. Being laughed at for being a virgin clearly indicates that being a virgin was considered to be an anomaly in their society. Notwithstanding, I never judge anyone based on their action because I assume that everyone has their own belief and understanding about life and religion. I had to admit that I did experience a slight culture shock about my new environment. Before coming to Sabah, most of my friends claimed that there will be no Islamic schools and I might be enrolled to a Christian school. Not true. Many of my friends also say about the mystic practices that are abundant in Sabah. Not entirely true. Basically, many of my friends claim numerous negative things about the Sabah and Sabahan, which most of the time are untrue and false notions. If you ask me about Sabah, my first description would be Sabah is a beautiful land. In Kota Kinabalu, which is located very close to the beach area, you can easily go and swim in the beautiful sea whenever you wish. There were at least 5 islands that I know of just outside of the Kota Kinabalu area, which requires a 15 minutes boat ride if you wish to go there. In fact, what I can say about Sabah is that it is filled with numerous beautiful places and locations. Compared to Kuala Lumpur where I came from, Sabah is amazingly beautiful. I really loved living in Sabah. Whenever I got bored, I could easily go fishing at numerous locations in Kota Kinabalu alone. second thing about Sabah is the beauty of the people living in it. Obviously, a lot of people disagree with me on this matter, but I could honestly say that Sabahans are beautiful people. I'm not being biased, but simply my sincerest and humblest opinion. In Sabah, there are many races living here, a part of the three races of Malay, Chinese, and Indian. Due to that, there are many marriages between different races, which resulted in creating beautiful individuals, at least based on my opinion. I'm not saying that everyone in Sabah is beautiful, but most of them are very pleasing to look at, which many people who are not from Sabah tend to vehemently disagree, and I respect their opinion too. Other than that, generally speaking, Sabah is awesome in almost every way that you can think of. The only thing that you need to live peacefully in Sabah is to be open-minded. Most people who are from Peninsula Malaysia and move to Sabah cannot enjoy the beauty of the state because they close their minds. They don't like being friends with many different races in Sabah. To me, I love it a lot. I make friends with everyone regardless of the looks, color of the skin, eyes, racial background, different religious belief, or for whatsoever reason. Because of this mindset, I love living in Sabah even more than my life in Kuala Lumpur. Most of the people in Sabah, especially the female members of the society that I had met, looks like angels in my eyes. This can be a serious culture shock whenever you talk to any beautiful female individual in Sabah and your heart starting to fall in love right away. I'm not sure whether it is because I was at the age of 16 years old or simply everyone that I met looked drop dead gorgeous to me. I was shocked being surrounded by many beautiful women in Sabah, which made me behave like a stupid fool. In a normal situation, I like to believe that I have always had a calm and serious demeanor on my facial features. However, when I was around someone whom I might consider as attractive, I became goofy and clumsy instantaneously. It is like having an allergy against beautiful women, which turns me to stupid and klutz. I wish I could deny this, but the science and evidences support this statement are almost undeniable and beyond reasonable doubts. This is essentially my biggest weakness or my kryptonite to my character. Several days after arriving at Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, I went to visit a dentist to remove one of my teeth. After removing the tooth at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, I waited for the bus that commutes to where I live, which was Taman Austral near Kepayan Ridge area. I was standing near at the bus stop, a beautiful individual that was approximately close to my age. I saw standing near me at the bus stop a beautiful individual that was approximately close to my age. I realized that she was stealing stares at my direction. At first, I thought I was just imagining things since beautiful girls had never looked at my direction in my life ever. So I just ignored her, but she was very beautiful. Later, I entered a bus and took my seat in the middle of the bus. I saw her took another seat in front of the bus. Since she was sitting within my natural field of vision, no one can really blame me if I was curious about this beautiful person. During the journey, I soon discovered that she talked to her friend while looking in my direction and later giggling and smiling. Clearly, something was going on in her mind because I was absolutely certain that she was talking about me. Before I get off the bus, I did give her several smiles, which might probably lead to a possible opportunity for a newly budding relationship between us. Honestly, I don't mind getting into a relation with a hot girl. However, I never got the bravery to talk to her and went on my way after exiting the bus. I was aware that several other individuals on the bus were also looking and talking at my general direction. At that time, I truly thought that it might be possible that those Sabahan had never seen a boy from Kuala Lumpur like me. During my walk towards my home, anyone who could see me walking appeared to be talking and looking at my direction. At that time, I started to become suspicious about the events that was occurring to me. As soon as I reached home, I entered a toilet and looked at a mirror to check my removed teeth. As I saw the reflection on the mirror, I saw myself having a huge bulge on my lip due to a bandage that the dentist told me to beat in order to stop any blood from flowing. A part of that, my lips was numb from the anesthetic injected on my gum, which made my mouth partially opened with blood pouring through it. I was angry and laughing at the same time because it explained everything that happened during my commute from the hospital to my house. Apparently, the hot girl and everyone else were looking at the boy whose lip was bulging and blood dripping down his face. I looked scary to anyone looking at me. Clearly, the girl was not interested with me, but simply worried about how I looked. She might be worried about me with blood dripping down my chin and neck. I guess that everyone really realized that I took the bus from the hospital, which might explain that no one told me about my serious injury. They were too kind to even mention it to me because considering that pointing out my serious injury might cause me hard feelings. Whenever I told my friend about the story, most of them laughed uncontrollably, which should be considered as the silver lining in this section of the story. It is most likely that this could prove that I became goofy and clumsy when I'm around beautiful girls. Alas, approximately 1 year later, when I was cleaning our classroom at Maktab Sabah, I got my lip cut when I accidentally bumped a chair to my face. Being more aware this time, I checked the cut to ensure that there was no blood dripping from the cut, to ensure that the same experience that I had before would never repeat itself. As soon as I travelled with my friends to Center Point Sabah, I was aware that there was a gorgeous girl looking at several items sold in the shopping complex. In order to get close to her without her noticing that I was checking her out, I walked slowly and began examining several items sold next to where she was standing. As soon as she turned towards me, she looked directly at my face. What I saw was one of the most beautiful human beings standing very close, actually standing right next to me. It happened exactly like the movies, when in the romance story, which a beautiful girl falls in love with a lame-looking boy as the first sight she took at me. I can see clearly how her beautiful face appeared, surprised for several seconds, and then she smiled at me. It was heavenly for me to actually experience that. This time, she clearly smiled at me. I was too happy about it, making me automatically smile back at her. Later, she turned away and walked towards her friends. I can hear her giggling. I saw how amazed the face of my friends and that was watching everything that happened. When I turned and walked towards them, I saw them started to change from amazed to bursting in laughter. I asked them what happened and why are they laughing uncontrollably. What was so funny to them? They began to bring me to a mirror in the shop and asked me to view my face. I saw the cut on my lip was dripping blood when I smiled. Damn it. I guess this hot girl was smiling at me because she saw the blood dripping on my lip. This became the proof that showed how I instantly became stupid and goofy whenever I met a beautiful girl. Luckily for me, after years had went by, I managed to control a certain degree of my goofiness whenever a beautiful girl was near. I hate my allergies of beautiful girl, but at least I had two funny stories because of it. This proved that I am a klutz around beautiful girls, and Sabahans are mostly beautiful. Don't believe me? Try coming to Sabah and have a look yourself. I had two bloody lips that proves of their beauty. I guess that ends the chapter 7 from this book. Thank you very much for listening and hope you enjoy and hope to see you again in the next video.